icónica urbana no necesariamente concuerda con las opiniones aquí expresadas.
Biblio Chisme.
Biblio Chisme?
Yes, Biblio Chisme. What are you reading?
I'm reading a book about this.
Everybody, happy Monday. Welcome to Biblio Chisme. We're so happy to be back with you today. I'm Angela.
And I'm Mao. Happy Monday, Angela. I love your energy on Monday night. So full of enthusiasm.
It's because Biblio Chisme feeds my soul. So only you all. I was unconscious 10 minutes ago. I was so tired today when I got home from work, and I thought I should take a nap because I need to be there for our listeners.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Did you have a nice nap?
I did. It was just too short, and my cat kept trying to talk to me, and I just wasn't in the mood for a conversation because I was unconscious. So oh, well.
We're very happy to be here on a new episode of Biblio Chisme.
Yes, we are. And I'm so happy to be able to ask you questions again.
Woohoo! Bring it on.
So my question today is, I asked, that is me, and I want to know if there's a little chaos in your life. So what places in your house contain books other than bookshelves?
Let's see. I have books on my nightstand. Nightstand. Of course, I have a mountain of books, which doesn't grow very much. I know whose nightstand keeps growing and growing, and all of a sudden, and I'm not talking about you.
No, as mine it isn't. So there.
But mine, it's normal, and it has 3 or 4 books. Very, very organized. Then I have a little mini table next to my sofa, where books happen to arrive there, and they keep moving. Like this book, it's going to be read very soon, so it's there, and then it moves way back to the bookshelf. Then another books come there. I have books on my dining table. I have books on my desk, a table where I have my keys and coins and and in my bookshelf, and in drawers. I also have books in drawers because my bookshelf it's already collapsed.
In drawers? Huh.
Yes.
I don't even think I have books in drawers. So.
And right now, it's I have to say that it's the time that I know the books that I have in my house in Oaxaca, but I'm not sure where they are. Like, there are a few that I know perfectly where they are. Like, I have all my poetry, most of my poetry books in Oaxaca, very organized. But the rest, not really.
Wow. Well, so you do have a little chaos. That makes me happy.
Because of the drawers, yes. I need to buy a bookshelf. I need to buy a bigger bookshelf. But then it it has another sort of consequences on my organization, because in order to buy a bookshelf, I need to have a different place to live. So that creates a very complicated thing. And yes.
That is very complicated. You
How
must
about
arrange
you?
your life by your books. So yeah, I obviously have books in every place. This is right now is the time where I have the books in the least places of my life. I used to have books in like every room. So that like I would read books by the room. So I'm reading. But like now I just obviously like I take the books with me. So weirdly, my nightstand will have maybe one book on it. There's next to my nightstand on the floor, there's like 6 books that haven't moved in like 6 months. But on the actual nightstand, there will be maybe one book on it at a time, or 2, maximum 3, which is crazy because I used to have like 10, 15 books on there. The thing that has helped me a lot is that I bought a piece of furniture that I keep next to the recliner where I read the most. And that's where I keep all my books. So there's like 45 books on that thing. And that's really that's really helped me.
Wow.
I have tons of books in the basement. My bookshelves are completely full. Every table, like around my living room, like the dining table, all have books on them. There's books in my car. Like it's very hard to find. Like right now, I am sitting in front of a bed that has 9 books on it.
They multiply. They have. I'm pretty sure they have a very intense sexual life, and they reproduce. Like we don't see them reproducing, but something's happening.
Yeah,
there.
all of a sudden you're just like, oh, there's books. There's more. How did this happen?
Yes.
The library saved my life though, because before there was a time when I wasn't using the library very much, and I just bought the books, and so my house was just like being taken over constantly. And now I return them, so I take out more, but it's just a balance. So I'm still buying books, but much less than I used to. But I love seeing books all over my house. It just makes me happy to just it's like little pieces of home in your home, you know?
It's beautiful to see how books start having a life of their own. Like they move around. So it's very beautiful.
The only thing that's a little bit sad is that, like, as we know, I live in a place where the weather can be very cold and sometimes very hot. And so there's very few times of the year where you can very comfortably read outside. And when that happens, I just am so happy. I wish I could keep books outside, but you can't because it's perfect and there's a rainstorm 3 seconds later. But it'd be nice to just go outside and have my books waiting for me.
That would be so nice.
Yeah.
I mean, you can have everything.
No, you can't.
Our dearest David Cruz mentions in the chat of Icónica Urbana that it's great to listen to Angela and Mao. And he confesses that he basically has 2 towers of books on my nightstand. And those keep growing.
Yeah.
I have a friend, a dearest friend, who next to her nightstand, she has a pile of 15 books, something like that. She's reading, and she's reading them as she feels. Like, tonight I want to read this one. So she reads a chapter of one book. Next day, she wants to read some poems of another book, and then she keeps reading the books like on a rotating system. That it's not as productive. Like she complains that she wants to finish more books, but like it's the way that she doesn't feel that it's a homework.
Yeah.
But it's more, a thing that she does for pleasure, because she reads a lot for work reasons. So on her desk, on her office, she has a lot of books, like academic books, essays and things. But when she reads literature, she likes to have more freedom around it.
I am the same way. Like, I read 10 books at once, at least, and I'm always reading what I want. What has changed, in fact, my friend told me the other day, because I was saying how I don't read very fast, and if I did, I would read so much more. And he was saying, well, if you focused on one book at a time, but I do not. And one thing that stopped me from having that, like, piles of books too, is the digital world now, because like I have right now 5 books that I'm listening to on audio, but they're all in my phone, so there's no pile there. And then I have 2 books I'm reading electronically, but they're on the same device, so they're not so it's kind of changed a little bit, the dynamic of the moving piles of books, but they're still in my head.
Do you think that electronic books or audiobooks, as you say, there's not a pile, could create a more chaos?
Oh, I mean,
like you keep adding more books there and not advancing on the other ones?
Sometimes, I'd say sometimes that happens, but for some reason, I'm a little more responsible with audiobooks. I don't know why. For some reason, I tend to finish them at a much higher rate than physical books. Like, if I'm reading a physical book, stop. But if I'm listening to an audiobook and I'm annoyed by it, I keep going. And then I do, like, it organizes itself because it's within apps. You know what I'm saying? So it just doesn't do chaos as much. I do sometimes fall under, like, I want everything, right? And that's why, like, right now I'm listening to 5 audiobooks. And I'm not excited about any of them, honestly. So that's kind of weird too. But it's weird. And the 2 electronic books I'm reading, I'm loving them, but it's harder for me for some reason to read electronically. Like, it takes more, I don't know, like, it takes more for me to think to do it. And so that's what I read the least, but I'm starting to get used to it.
Before we go on a break, I wanted to say something about electronic books. I forget that I'm reading them.
Yeah.
Like I'm really interested in them. I start reading them. I wanted to have them, but then I forget that it's there. Like, I don't see the actual book, so the physical book. So I just forget that it's there.
That was happening to me actually quite a bit. And then I started reading a book when I was actually in Mexico. I was reading a book that I really liked. And so because of that, like, I want to know what happens next. So I've been reading it much more intensely than usual. And the other reason that I've stayed with electronic more lately is because it gives me access to more books. And there's some books that I can only get in that format. And sometimes I'll get like a digital ARC, which is an advanced reader copy. And advanced reader copies make me feel guilty. Like, I was able to get this book for free, so I need to read it so I could talk about it so that it's worth the investment or whatever. I don't know. So because I get those electronically sometimes, I tend to be more disciplined about reading them. It's weird. Oh, and then I recently added another format where I'm listening to CDs in my car. So that's a whole other book. And I only listen to that in my car because I don't have a CD player in my house. Yeah.
Interesting.
Chaos.
Yeah.
We should go on a break.
Yes. Let's go.
You're listening to Biblio Chisme.
And we're back.
Yes, we are.
So, do you want to say hi to anybody?
Yes, we want to say hello to Mohit, who's listening.
Hi,
we are very happy that he listens.
Yeah.
We already said hello to David, who's also listening. We want to thank Aldo a lot because he just makes beautiful memes for us, and he made a meme for us tonight with the question, what kind of reader do you are? And it's beautiful because it has options. So it's beautiful. We also want to say hello to Musa de Colores. It's her birthday today. So we want to say happy birthday. For listening. We hope that you get a lot of books. We also want to say hello to our dearest Aubrey and Male. Aubrey was very upset that there was no Biblio Chisme last week.
Yeah.
And she was asking, is there gonna be a new Biblio Chisme this week? And we said, hopefully. So here it is. I'm upset.
She wasn't upset. She just wanted to hear more content.
We also want to say hello to our producer, Anwar Ricardo, who's making this possible.
Thank you, Anwar. So, what book do you have to talk to us about?
On the last episode of Biblio Chisme, I'm telling you guys about the thing that Angela caused in my life that to celebrate and focus on the beautiful Gemini season. So I keep celebrating birthdays of authors that I really like, that I really admire. And for me, it's every year, it's like, really, this author, this film director, this other wonderful person. I just heard that amazing musician and artist Laurie Anderson, it's a Gemini. Her birthday was yesterday. And so one of my favorite Gemini is Allen Ginsberg. So for celebrating, I decided that I wanted to reread one of Ginsberg's most famous books, which is called Kaddish. It's a beautiful book written back in 1959, I think. He wrote this book because his mom died, and he was heartbroken when he heard the news. He was in San Francisco and he was going to depart the next day for a trip to Alaska, doing something on a ship, doing some scientific research or something, which for me was like, what? Ginsburg? What he was doing on the ship to Alaska. And his mother died in New Jersey, I think. And one of the things that triggers this beautiful poem, Kaddish, it's the prayer that it said for people that are dead in the
Jewish
Jewish culture. Yes. So they were from a Jewish background. They were socialist, communist. They were not religious people, but he was very worried that the Kaddish for her was not said because there were not enough men to say the prayer. Apparently, the prayer can be only said if there are 10 men present. Not 10 people, but 10 men. Uh-huh. And when she was buried, there were only 7 people in the cemetery. So he was very sad for this thing, and he tried to write a poem about it, about his mother and the relationship he had with her. And it's an amazing poem, very strong, very harsh. It's a very it's a very good family chisme, because you get to know things about his parents' marriage. You get to know about Ginsburg's mother illness. She was mentally ill, and she had some sort of schizophrenia. And you read about how people with mental illness were treated back in the 40s and 50s, and the things they lived as a family together, the things he did as a 15-year-old boy trying to help his mother. So it's very moving, very touching. But the thing is, he was struggling a lot with writing this poem because it was very personal. Mm-hmm. But his editor, he was pushing like, hey, we've been very successful with How and other poems, but we need a new book by So Ginsburg was not sure if he wanted to write the poem to finish it, but Lawrence Fairley, this amazing editor in San Francisco, kept insisting, and so he finally made that Ginsburg sat down and finished the poem. And the book that I read, the edition that I read, it's a 50-year anniversary of it. It's a bilingual translation to Spanish, has the original in English, and it has a note on the book, and it said that for the person who did the note, which I cannot remember the name right now, it was the most important poem by Ginsburg. Not How, but Kaddish. And I thought, well, this is an interesting point of view. I had never thought of it this way.
I remember when you asked me to read it as homework.
Kaddish?
Yes. And I think I wish I could find that notebook, because that would be fun. But I think that if I read it now, it would be a very different exercise.
Most likely.
Because, one, I'm obviously a different person, but two, like, my mother hadn't died yet when I read it. So, And I can't imagine like what the, well, I can imagine. It's such a full responsibility to try to bring the person who brought you life into existence again through words.
Yeah. I think I hadn't been back to the poem in the last 20 years or so. And it was very interesting that I was reading it and I was thinking, did I read this? Did I really read this book? Like I had no memories of it. It can be the translation because it's a different translation that the book that I originally read. But there was something that for me, I'm more mature now 20 years later. Thank God. I get to understand certain things and I have more of a background. I understand more of the Jewish community and their what does this prayer mean, you know, and this kind of even though they weren't religious, they were atheist people, but at the same time, it was part of their culture. Now I can understand that better than 20 years ago.
Yeah. Well, that is fascinating. That's really cool that you're back to it again.
Yes.
It makes me curious to read it too.
It was a really, really interesting read because it was like having a coffee with someone you had already met.
Yeah.
You remember their name only, maybe their face, but then it was like, who the hell are you? You're a very interesting person.
Yeah. Well, on that note, let's go on a little break. Not for 20 years. And we'll be back shortly.
Yes.
Síguenos en nuestras redes. Busca Icónica Urbana en Facebook. En Instagram y Twitter estamos como icónica-urbana.
You're listening to Biblio Chisme. And we're back again. See, I told you it wouldn't take that long.
Not 20 years. Not 20 years.
Nope. I am very excited because I couldn't figure out what I wanted to talk about on the show. Because, like I said, I'm not that excited again. I got so excited. I read a bunch of really good books, and then I'm back. But anyway, I went into the archives all the way back to 2016 when I read this book, and it is called The Earth Moved: On the Remarkable Achievements of Earthworms. By Amy Stewart. So do you know that I love it. I love this book. I love everything about it. Amy Stewart is really, really good about, like, she writes this series like Wicked Plants and Wicked Bugs. And she just writes about nature in a really cool way. And she also writes mysteries. I have not read any of her mysteries, but I just love her way of approaching nature in a very interesting way. I just saw that she has a book about the triumph of seeds. Oh no, that's not her. You lied to me. Anyway, but no, she has a book called The Drunken Botanist, which, come on, like, you want to read that. The plants that create the world's greatest drinks. So she does a lot of this microhistory that's like very, very popular now. This genre of book where you focus in on something very particular. And so another author that's known for that, her first blockbuster book was Stiff, which was basically about like dead bodies. But since then, she's written books on astronauts and all kinds of things. Amy Stewart, they're both very witty and funny, but Amy Stewart, like, I get her humor more. But anyway, this particular book is on how amazing earthworms are and how they change the system of nature that we're in. So a quote in the description is, "The earthworm may be small, spineless, and blind, but its impact on the ecosystem is profound. It plows the soil, fights plant diseases, cleans up pollution, and turns ordinary dirt into fertile land." And it's amazing. Like, I just remember reading this book and just thinking, like, oh my goodness, how do we underestimate these, like, incredible beings? Like, worms clean the trash out of trash. They, like, absorb, like, toxic materials when they digest. Like, they'll digest things and they absorb the toxic, let out clean soil, and they survive. And one of the things that like always really stuck to me was how they changed the environments that they're in. And so around like Lake Michigan, I think, and people will go to the lake and they'll go fishing there. And for bait, for fish, people use worms. And so people will just throw out the worms that they don't use. They're just throw them out. And so this happened so much that the worms started changing the floor of the forest by just being there. It's just an incredible thing. And I just love this book. I love delving into this. It was so interesting. And I just talking about it makes me want to read her books again and read more.
No, I think that it's a very important thing to learn, and it's fascinating how knowledge, interesting knowledge, is there on things that you don't think about. I think it's wonderful.
Yeah, and it's like so many things that you're just like, how am I walking around this world and I don't know these things? And like now I cannot look at a worm after a rainstorm on the sidewalk and not put it back in the grass. Because I'm like, you got work to do, buddy. Like, I can't have you getting hurt.
Yeah.
It's so cool.
And I think that it's very important that we understand that in so many ways, we are part of a system that needs us, and we need the system. Not talking about capitalism. I'm talking about worms and birds and sun and trees and soil and wind and water and everything that it's alive in the world. We need each other. Even the horrible mosquitoes, they must serve some purpose.
Oh my goodness. Somebody needs to come out with that book. But the only thing I can think of is mosquitoes, all the terrible diseases they carry and how many people they kill.
But the thing is, everything, even diseases, form part of a system. And instead of being angry and horrified, it's better to understand what's happening. So
I am angry and horrified at mosquitoes. Still.
we can understand. I would love to know why mosquitoes are important.
I would too. Listeners, if you know why mosquitoes are important, please help us out, because I don't know. And like there's nothing like that on your ear. Like, how do they know? How do they know?
I can definitely cohabit with spiders, bees, wasps, flies.
Yes.
I can see a cockroach and not step on it and help her to go away. Things like that. But mosquitoes triggers the worst part in me. Like, I'll get the insecticide and spray you all over, and I want you to die. Horrible thing. Yes.
I love how this all started with, we need to be one with nature. We just started talking about mosquitoes, and it all went downhill from there.
But if we understood the reason for mosquitoes to exist, we could be better people with them.
I don't know. Probably not.
We would definitely.
Anyway, worms. Okay, worms are amazing. So that's the book I wanted to talk about. The Earth Moved. What's your favorite thing?
Before my favorite thing, let me say hello to Martin Mendez, who's also listening, and he let us know that he's listening. My favorite thing is that I found out that Margaret Atwood has a new unburnable copy of The Handmaid's Tale, printed and bound using fireproof materials. This edition was designed to protect this vital story and stand as a powerful symbol against censorship. And what I love most of this news is a picture of Margaret Atwood using a flame, how do you call un lanzallamas, flame torch?
Yeah, I guess like a
the
like
weapon. The weapon that has fire. She trying to burn a copy of The Handmaid's Tale, and I think that it's beautiful, and I love it. I love how this thing can be something that.
Yes. So
how about you?
I am so happy. I mean, speaking about nature and communing with nature. Oh, let me go back a second. For all of you who might be reading Chisme to my response, I was trying to find the picture of her. So I love Margaret Atwood. So don't read into my response, because I was also thinking I would like to read her more, because I love her books. But anyway, my favorite thing, like we were talking about, is being outside, just being able to go outside again and hanging out and just sitting on my porch and reading. Like this weekend, we did that like Saturday and Sunday in the morning, got a little coffee, went outside, just relaxed, sat down, and was just reading my book. And we could hear the little birds, the little, and the wind in the leaves. My favorite sound is wind and leaves, which all sounds like ocean waves. Mm-hmm. It's so beautiful. And so I close my eyes and I can be like in a space full of trees and next to the ocean simultaneously. That's my favorite thing this week.
Ooh, nice.
Yeah. Very happy. Very, very happy.
Yay.
So, dear listener, readers, friends, that is our show for today. Let us know what you're reading, because that's always great for us to hear and for us to talk about and think about. And we will see you next week.
Yes. keep us posted on your readings and your books and everything book related. And let us know if you live in chaos or if you have an organized way of with a relationship with your book.
Yes, all the things.
Yes.
All right. Well, have a wonderful and happy reading.
Happy reading to you.
A flamethrower. Sorry.
Flamethrower. Yes.
Yes.
Biblio Chisme is a podcast about creating conversation around reading, satisfying curiosities we didn't know we had, and sharing this dialogue with others, preferably with good coffee, tea, and snacks.